Hey boys and girls, it's Miss Sargent. I really miss you. Thank you for coming to learn with me today. As you can see, I am back in our classroom. I have not been here since you guys were last with me right before spring break. I'm feeling a little lonely. I came to get some of my things, pack up a few things, and it just doesn't feel the same without you guys here. But do you know what would make me feel like you guys were with me right now? I know. Let's read a book. Well, the last book that I read you in one of our videos was called Thank You, Mr. Fokker. What is our other favorite book that we recently read in class before we got out? If you've probably guessed it already, that's right, Fireflies, Story and Pictures by Julie Brinkle. As you already know, we've read several books in this year by the same authors and the same illustrators. So the same person did all of the pictures and wrote this story. It's beautiful. But before we begin reading, in order for us to think about the special meaning of this story, we have to be able to do something. What do good readers do, boys and girls? They stop, think, and ask questions. Well, in order to stop, think, and ask questions, you must be thinking as you're reading and using the knowledge in your what? That's right, your schema. So, if we are using the knowledge from our schema, and what if we also used the clues from the text? What would we be doing? Knowledge from our schema, background knowledge, clues. I know in this story, in order for us to understand the special meaning, we have to make an inference. So just as we just said, making inferences. When authors of books don't tell everything about characters and events, and readers have to use story clues and background knowledge, their schema, to make an inference. See? Text clues, schema, inference. Light bulb moment. Some of your thinking stems when you make inferences might start out like, I can infer, this could mean, perhaps, maybe. But in this class this year, boys and girls, we got really good at saying what? I can infer. We had inferences down. So let's go ahead and read our story together. Fireflies. One summer evening, I looked up from dinner through the open window into the backyard. It was growing dark. My treehouse was a black shape in the tree, and I wouldn't go up there now. But something flickered there. A moment, I looked, and it was gone. It flickered again, over near the fence. Fireflies! Don't let your dinner get cold, called Mama. I forked the meat and corn and potatoes into my mouth. Please, may I go out? The fireflies. Mama smiled and Daddy nodded. Go ahead, they said. I ran from the table down to the cellar to find a jar. I knew where to look, behind the stairs. Remember, boys and girls, a cellar is kind of like a basement. It's a place where you often hide from storms like tornadoes and things. The jars were dusty, and I polished one clean on my shirt. Then I ran back 2 steps at a time. That means he was in a hurry. Holes, I remembered, so they can breathe. And as quietly as I could, so she wouldn't catch me doling them, I poked holes in the top of the jar with Mama's scissors. The screen door banged behind me as I ran from the house. If someone said, "Don't slam it," I wasn't listening. I called to my friends in the street, "Fireflies!" But they had come before me with polished jars, and others were coming behind. The sky was darker now. My ears rang with crickets and my eyes stung from staring too long. I blinked hard as I watched them. That's the lights in our classroom, boys and girls. 1 second. I'm back. I blinked hard as I watched them. Fireflies! Blinking on, blinking off, dipping low and soaring high above my head, making white patterns in the dark. We ran like crazy barefoot in the grass. Catch them, we cried, grasping at the lights. So beautiful, boys and girls. Suddenly, a voice called out above the others, "I caught one!" And it was my very own. I thrust my hand into the jar and spread it open. The jar glowed like moonlight, and I held it in my hands. I felt a tremble of joy and shouted, "I can catch hundreds!" Then we dashed out, waving our hands in the air like nets, catching 2, 10, and hundreds of fireflies, thrusting them into jars and waving our hands for more. Look how beautiful that is, and look how excited they look, boys and girls. Then someone called from my house, "It's time to come in now!" And others called from other houses, and it was over. My friends took jars of fireflies to different homes. I climbed the stairs to my room, and I set the jar on the table by my bed. Mama kissed me and turned out the light. "I caught hundreds," I said. Daddy called from the hallway, "See you later, alligator." "After a while, crocodile," I called back. I caught hundreds of fireflies. In the dark, I watched the fireflies from my bed. They blinked on and off, and the jar glowed like moonlight. But it was not the same. The fireflies beat their wings against the glass and fell to the bottom, and they lay there. The light in the jar turned yellow like a flashlight left on too long. I tried to swallow, but something in my throat would not go down. And the light grew dimmer, dimmer, and green like moonlight underwater. All right, boys and girls, so let's stop and think about our inference really quick. If the lights were growing dimmer and it was becoming hard for him to swallow and it was feeling like something wouldn't go down his throat, what can you infer based on your own background knowledge and your schema about what the character must be feeling right now? You think maybe he's sad, he's worried, he's confused, he's nervous? Sometimes when I get really nervous or confused, I get the same feeling. So now the little fireflies are really, really dim. I shut my eyes tight and put the pillow over my head. They were my fireflies. They made moonlight in my jar. I caught them, but the jar was nearly dark. I can infer that maybe he is angry or frustrated still because he has a pillow over his head. That's my clue. And I have seen people that get angry before. Sometimes they put pillows over their heads. I flung off the covers. I went to the window, opened the jar, and aimed it at the stars. Fly. So, oh no, he just let the fireflies go. First, the jar got dark and they wouldn't glow, and now he's letting them outside of the window. Then the jar began to glow, green, then gold, then white as the moon, and the fireflies poured into the night. Fireflies! Blinking on, blinking off, dipping low, soaring high above my head, making circles around the moon like stars dancing. They do kind of look like stars, don't they? They glow like stars. Here we go. I held the jar dark and empty in my hands. The moonlight and the fireflies swam in my tears. But I could feel myself smiling. So, after he did all that hard work and he lets him go, he's happy but sad. So, we can make a text-to-self connection here, because who are the Fireflies? That's right, you guys are my little Fireflies. And what's like the jar? This classroom, this is our jar. And who's like the little boy in the story? That's right, I feel like the little boy in the story is me, because you guys will always, always be my little Fireflies. And I put work into you. I helped you glow bright. You were doing so well. But if I keep you in my jar, if I keep you in this classroom forever, like I want to, because you're my babies, my students, would you be able to glow any brighter? You would become dull. So now it's your time to fly. It's your time to shine bright with all of that wonderful knowledge. So boys and girls, thank you for reading with me this year, and thank you for being in my class. I love you, and I will always, always be your teacher, and you will always be my little Fireflies. And if there's one thing that you never forget, ever, it's what? That's right. That something very magical can happen when you read a good book. Please never forget where reading can take you. You can go places you've never been before. You can escape the place you don't want to be. You can learn new things. Reading is truly magical. I hope I taught you that this year, boys and girls. I love you, and I always will.